Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Crash Bandicoot. In the last part, we continued on through the second island, reaching Sunset Vista in the process, and I hate this level. You might remember during Lost City, the first of this level theme that I mentioned, it's in my top 3 least favorites level themes in Crash 1. This is in my top 3 least favorite levels. Mostly due to its length. This is, at least in the original version, because of N.Sane Trilogy's DLC level, the longest stage in the game. Totaling out in, I think, 6 to 7 minutes here? If not longer, which is ridiculous. And because of that, doing this stage deathless is kind of stressful. And, I don't like it. Ugh. At the same time, though, the Japanese version, I think, is a bit more dickish here because... well, it's both more dickish and more safe, because they put this, they changed this level's position to be on the third island. At the same time, though, the level they replaced it with, I think, is of equal difficulty. It's just shorter. In terms of interesting things about this level, I mentioned the prototype a couple times at this point. I went into a bit more detail about it last part. But this stage had an entirely different level design in the prototype/beta version. One of the biggest changes is, you know those torches that light on fire? They had rotating platform version of those, which were really annoying and really complex jumps. I remember hearing that they might bring the beta Sunset Vista into N.Sane Trilogy, and I really hope not. But, yeah, I've played the beta version through some hacking. It's not fun. It's not fun. Though, speaking of levels in the beta version, I mentioned before that stage layouts were different there in general. Let's go over some of the main ones. Like on the first island, which I think is called Insanity Island, Hog Wild and Boulders were switched, as was Up the Creek and Ripperoo on the first island in general. The next level, actually rather, there was another level between this and the boss fight that we're going to be fighting after this, which was a level from later on the third island, if I recall correctly. And a lot of the later levels on the third island just had their position switched around. I'm not sure the exact reason for those, because honestly the third level is pretty balanced in difficulty except for 2 particular levels, so I don't know what's going on there. But you know, it is interesting to always see how stage layouts can change throughout a game's development. Like, I immediately think of even Sonic 1, because in the original Sonic 1, Planet's Labyrinth Zone was second! This level is made much easier, though, in N.Sane Trilogy, because since this is a level that doesn't have a colored gem, you can die in it, and that makes it so much less stressful. Though, if I recall, this level also has, in the base game, the longest relic in the N.Sane Trilogy. Because let me see if I can find the exact times really quick. I think it's like 5 minutes, 30 seconds for a Sapphire, 3:40 for a Platinum, which, if I recall, that Platinum is about the length of a normal speed run of another level, the second longest, so yeah, that's annoying. Now I want to come over here and use this red legend to my advantage to hit this exclamation point box, since we need to make those ones in the background appear, and it's within one of them that, I forget if we've already seen one of them in the level already, because there's 3 of them, a Cortex token. Plain and simple, in 2 levels of the game, similarly to the Tonda tokens and the Brio tokens, there are Cortex tokens that lead to the hardest bonus stages in the game. However, for 100% you're required to complete them. What I did as a kid a lot was I tended to try and do the Gem 1 playthrough and then come back into this level to do the Cortex token, because I just didn't feel confident about doing them both on one shot. Nowadays, though, I'm more confident with my abilities. Plus, honestly, the first one for me is nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Okay, yeah, that was our first one. For some reason, I always have issues remembering where the second Cortex token is. And I don't know why. Also, I love the background here. I will say time and time again, Crash 1 is a very visually impressive game for the system. Crash 2 and 3 as well, but there's something about the way Crash 1 looks. It just feels more, not better, but organic, I suppose. I don't know exactly how to explain it. I guess it's through the more streamlined hallway design that, even compared to 1 here, that makes 2 and 3 feel more gamey. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but I know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I know what I'm saying. I don't know how to word it. There we go. Either way, time for the Cortex one. And first off, this music creeps me out, especially as a child. This one in particular isn't honestly that bad of a bonus stage in Crash 1 as it originally stands. In N.Sane Trilogy, where it counts for a box total, not so much. And for clearing it, you find Cortex, who drops a key. These are the reason Cortex stages are exclusive. You get a key in them, which count towards your percentage. Why? They unlock a level. In particular, that one unlocks the second of the 2 Hog levels, which we'll be doing in a few moments. Not immediately after this level, because I go for the boss fight first, but it's there. Honestly, it always feels a bit weird whenever there's 2 bonus stages in one level in Crash 1 to me. I don't know why. Maybe it just feels like a bonus stage should be a one-time thing, you know? Although, admittedly, Crash 2 and 3 do not have that issue because bonus rounds were changed so that there was only 1 per level. And it wasn't how you saved at all. Thank God they really wisened up for that in Crash 2 onwards. It's always around here that I really start to have my palms sweat, though, because this is basically the last platforming section of the stage. There's 1 more bottomless pit jump that, well, technically 3 more bottomless pit jumps, but it's the same pit that can kill you. But beyond this, the only ways you can die are losing your Aku-Akus. And I always get nervous here because if I fall down, who knows what I could land on, be it more platforms or some of the torches, because obviously fire hurts, don't touch it. And you can see that reflected in my gameplay here because I'm getting sloppy a bit here. I hate Sunset Vista, I really do. I hate the beta design more, but I hate this design too. If the level length was cut down by maybe a third, it wouldn't be as bad, but there is something to be said about balancing the length of your level with the difficulty of it. And this is our last enemy. I've died here before, though, so watch out, especially one time when I was getting the relic in N.Sane Trilogy. That was annoying. Either way, we're done with Sunset Vista. I hate this level. And that's our 8th gem, and one thing I have to admit that gets kind of tedious about Crash 1, the farther in you get, the more gems you get, the more gems you have to watch go across the screen like that. By the time you're in the 20s, it gets kind of annoying. Either way, time for our next boss fight, Koala Kong. Who's honestly probably, if not my favorite boss in the game, second favorite. Way he works, he throws rocks at you. One thing I try to do here, but I'm very bad at timing, is that the rocks he throws at you that can damage you normally, you can spin into to break. During each of his throwing volleys, he'll usually have a TNT box spawn on you to level your playing field. But he will throw a heavier rock that you need to spin into in order to damage him. However, be careful of the minecarts, because if it hits the minecarts, well, he's not getting hit by the rock, meaning he's not getting damaged. Also, I love his profile picture there on the bottom left. I've always found that humorous looking. Notable, though, every single one of the boss fights in this game, in a bit of Crash 2 and 3, more so Crash 2, are foreshadowed in the intro to this game, because in the scene where he's mutating Crash, you see cages of all the creatures that Cortex mutated into his generals. The one that immediately sticks in my mind is the Potoroo one, because we'll be seeing that boss fight, I think, next part, if not the part after. The TNTs are probably the most difficult thing about this fight, honestly, because I've never been able to fully judge the hitbox of the TNT crates in Crash 1. Crash 2 and 3 are a bit better at it. And with that, he's done, and we're on to the third island with heavy machinery, but I'm going to go back a bit and do the next, the key level that is right above Boulder Dash. Whole Hog. And this is a level I don't like. Hog Wild I can like due to its length, because honestly it balances out the you only get 1 HP shot with, honestly, some pretty fair challenge. This level I've always had issues with. In practice, I was here for about 20 minutes trying to get this level in one shot. And that's bad. Which, mind you, not as bad as my Sunset Vista time. Sunset Vista took me a goddamn hour to practice fully. But, love the way this level looks, though. I've always loved the way Crash 1 looks, as I said before. Which is interesting to me because, honestly, if I'm judging correctly, there's a lot of things in this game that are just colored polygons without textures, similarly to Mario and Mario 64. Which, you know, honestly, that's cool. I like simple stuff like that. Simple techniques that can make stuff still look good are really interesting to me. Either way, that's Hog Wild. Nothing too bad. Another clear gym, if I recall. With that, we are now on to the third island, which I think is actually the longest island in the game. That feels about right. And we're immediately into heavy machinery, a level that's actually, if I recall, about as long as Sunset Vista, but it feels a lot shorter due to the fact that you're doing more in it. Now, one thing you need to note, the frozen pipes you can stand on, don't even attempt it with the heated pipes. I always remember during my early playthroughs, I tried not to jump on the frozen pipes because I thought they would freeze me to death, but no, you're fine on them. But we are coming up on something that tricked me up a couple of times, and not only my practice playthroughs because I forgot about it, but also as a kid, that pit you can fall into. The way you're supposed to be able to tell that you can jump into that and not die is the fact that there's a space between the two enemies. However, child me was not able to realize that why would they put enemies to kill you there if it's a bottomless pit? And that is a very dumb thing that I did, but we all had those moments as a kid that we just didn't completely understand game design ideas. Also, I love the heavy machinery level theme, both the actual graphical style and the music. This is probably my favorite song in the game, honestly. Even though I don't go back to Crash 1's soundtrack too much. If I'm going back to a Crash soundtrack, it's either 2 or 3 because I feel like those do a better job of being game music. A lot of Crash 1's music is very atmospheric. At times to its detriment. Also, fun fact, that enemy I just killed shows up in Crash 2 as a background element, not as an actual enemy. Which, interesting asset reuse. I've never gotten that extra life. It's not worth it to me. I know how you're supposed to. You're probably supposed to wait till the platform goes back up, but I don't got time for that. Now, in terms of interesting background for heavy machinery here, this was actually the first, fully completed level that worked perfectly, which is interesting to me because that means it's technically the first fully functional Crash level, similarly to how Rhyhorn was the first Pokemon. If I recall it, it and the next level's places were also switched in the beta. I don't know why they alternated the two, because honestly, the second level makes more sense as a first level for the third island, but Also, if I recall, there was a pit in this level somewhere earlier on that acted as a shortcut in the prototype to where the third N.Brio token is. But I guess they added enemies there just so you couldn't fall down and skip 2/3 of the level, basically. And we're over halfway done. Which, actually, no, that's actually pretty appropriate because in total, counting boss fights, Crash 1 has, I think, 32 levels. 26 of which are normal, 6 of which are boss fights. So, yeah, that sounds about right. Well, actually, no, technically it has 32. 33 including fully finished levels that weren't implemented. More on that later on. One of the bigger issues with this level, I suppose, is that due to its length, similarly to Sunset Vista, if you die towards the end, you really have to redo a lot. But honestly, due to how much easier this level is than Sunset Vista, I don't find it as much of an issue. I always have issues with these Steam vents for some reason. Their hitboxes can be a bit iffy. It's like, I think the moment that it starts, before the Steam even shows up, it counts as a hitbox. Also, credit to the N.Sane trilogy by making the Steam not only more realistic looking, duh, it's like you're jumping from PS1 to PS4, but also by making the vents actually have visual timings as well. Because here in the original Crash 1, the steam just sort of happens. In the N.Sane trilogy, a vent opens up that causes the steam to get let through, and I like that a lot more for timing's sake. Also, I screw up here. Do not immediately jump left. So now I can't finish this Brio stage. Whoops. It's actually one of my favorite Brio stages, too, because it's just pure, controlled platforming. On boxes. Which, you know, theoretically is technically how the entire game works because of hitboxes. Either way, Heavy Machinery, not a very bad level. Honestly, it's probably one of my favorites in the game. But it can give some people some trouble due to the pipes and some kind of annoying jumps, I suppose. Also, that stone is very out of place in this level. And I believe that's another clear gem. Yep. Let's see, look at that. Only halfway through the game. We're not even halfway through the gem count. And now it's time for Cortex Power, which starts with a cutscene of this, which is why I think it fits a lot better as the intro for the third island. And this is a level I cannot complete at the moment because you need the blue gem in order to get all the boxes here. So, we're skipping a lot of boxes and we're just going to go through the end of the stage as smoothly as we can. I recommend bringing an Aku Aku into this stage, though, because then you can just invincibility your way through, honestly, a pretty good chunk of it. No matter what you do, though, unlike, say, some other obstacles in the game, if you fall into the green goop, it is instant kill. It won't, like, make you jump up like the heated pipes would. I honestly probably could have saved this Aku Aku mask for the trip back down, because what we have to do here is come up to the right to activate an exclamation point block, and then head left back at that fork to actually progress. But, this works out for me all the same, too. Now, a fun little fact about this level, in the beta, the camera was different in this stage. It was behind the back like a lot of the other stages. But they changed it, I guess, because they realized this platform is kind of annoying with that camera. However, one thing I should mention is that the blue gem path is just a normal platforming path in the beta due to the fact that gems didn't exist. In fact, that's something interesting about the gems. They weren't originally planned for the game. Because when the game was originally in development, it only had the obstacles, the enemies, and the design. The boxes were nowhere to be seen. They were added because playtesters were saying, the game feels, basically were saying that the game felt a bit empty the way it was. So they added in the boxes and gems to actually give the player more to do, which honestly is to the game's benefit because it's more than just platforming. But in Crash 1's case, I don't go for the gems very often. Crash 1's one of those games, if I go back to, I'm just doing the straightforward mode, because I do not like going for the gems in Crash 1. But with that, I'm going to end this out for here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we're going to be continuing along the third island and seeing what we can do in this place along the way. See you guys then.